Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into personalized learning paths.
Oh, a fascinating topic for sure.
I was looking over the sources you sent over, and
Mm-hmm.
we've got research articles, observations from real classrooms,
Yeah?
even some drafts of policies.
Wow.
So it seems like you want to go way beyond just defining what personalized learning is.
Absolutely.
We're really going to try to get to the bottom of the why, the how,
Right.
and what it all means,
Yeah.
for the future of education.
Well, and it's a future that's definitely sparking a lot of debate.
For sure.
I mean, the idea of moving away from this one-size-fits-all approach to teaching is appealing,
Right.
but actually making that happen in real classrooms
Yeah.
presents a whole new set of challenges and possibilities.
It really does feel like we're at a crossroads.
Yeah.
One path is that familiar way we've been doing things for decades.
It's a well-trodden path.
Exactly. And the other path, personalized learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting, but it's definitely less defined.
And there's no one right way to do it, that's for sure.
Right. Our sources all seem to agree, at least on that.
It's true. Even the terms we use can get confusing.
Oh, yeah.
You see, personalized, adaptive, individualized, used almost interchangeably.
I've noticed that.
But there are subtle differences between those approaches, you know?
It's
It's like the difference between a tailor making a custom suit
okay.
and a store that sells clothing in different sizes and styles.
Right. They both offer some level of customization,
Exact.
but that level of individualization can be pretty different.
Huge difference.
So before we get too lost in all the jargon,
Yeah.
let's try to really understand what personalized learning is all about.
Sounds good.
What are the core principles?
Yeah.
And how does this translate into real benefits for students?
So at its heart, personalized learning really comes down to recognizing that each student comes into the classroom with their own unique strengths and weaknesses, learning styles, and even personal goals. It's about meeting them where they are and providing a learning experience that truly helps them reach their full potential.
So what would that ideally look like?
Ideally, you'd see students who are more engaged, who understand the material more deeply, and ultimately achieve better academic outcomes.
Okay, but we've got to move beyond just theory here.
Yeah.
Right? You mentioned real classrooms, and I'm thinking about a teacher
Right.
with 30 students, each with their own individual needs.
Yeah.
How on earth do you actually make personalized learning work in that kind of setting?
Well, that's where technology can really make a difference.
Okay.
It can amplify what a teacher can do, not replace them.
So not replacing teachers.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Think of adaptive learning platforms, for example.
Okay.
They can actually adjust the pace and the difficulty of the material for each student based on how they're doing.
Oh, interesting.
And that frees up the teacher to focus on the human side of teaching,
So things like,
mentoring, giving in-depth feedback, and creating a real sense of community in the classroom.
one of our sources, a research paper from the DF Institute, found that using VR simulations with students with cognitive disabilities
Okay.
led to a 30% increase in their understanding. Wow. That's huge.
That is significant, yeah.
So is that a sign of what's to come?
It's definitely promising.
Or are we getting ahead of ourselves?
Well, what's interesting about that study is that the VR experience was designed specifically to address the learning challenges of those students.
So it wasn't just about the cool technology.
It wasn't just bells and whistles, no.
Right. It was about using the technology thoughtfully.
Exactly. It provided a multisensory input, repetition in a safe environment, and chances to practice skills they would use in real life.
So things that traditional teaching methods often have trouble doing.
Right, especially consistently.
Okay, so does that mean every classroom needs to be decked out with VR headsets and AI tutors?
Well, technology is a tool, not a magic solution.
Okay.
The success of personalized learning depends on how well we integrate it into the learning process.
So just giving every student a tablet with educational apps isn't going to magically transform a classroom.
It takes more than that.
It's about using technology strategically to support those core principles we talked about earlier.
Right, like understanding individual needs, providing personalized pathways, and helping students take charge of their learning.
Now, our sources also talk about some practical techniques
Yeah.
that don't necessarily rely on fancy technology.
Right.
Things like differentiated instruction and scaffolded learning. Can you give us a concrete example of how those might work in practice?
Sure, let's imagine a math lesson on fractions.
Okay.
In a traditional setting, everyone gets the same worksheet, the same pace, the same explanation. But with differentiated instruction, the teacher realizes that students approach fractions differently. Visual learners might benefit from using manipulatives or diagrams, while kinesthetic learners need hands-on activities.
So the teacher provides different materials and activities.
Exactly, tailored to each learning style.
Okay. And what about scaffolding?
Scaffolding is all about providing the right level of support at the right time.
So, for example?
Say a student struggling with equivalent fractions. Instead of letting them flounder. The teacher might break the problem down into smaller, more manageable steps. And then as the student starts to understand, that scaffolding is gradually removed.
Okay, so you're helping them become more independent.
Exactly.
It sounds like personalized learning really changes the teacher's role.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of being the sage on the stage, they become more of a facilitator, a guide.
Yeah, more of a guide on the side.
Exactly.
And that's actually one of the biggest challenges, teacher training and mindset.
Interesting.
Personalized learning requires a whole different set of skills. Comfort with technology and a willingness to let go of that traditional model of teaching.
So how do we prepare teachers for this new landscape?
That's the big question.
Is it about professional development? Or do we need to completely change how we train teachers?
It's probably going to take a combination of approaches. We need to give teachers the tools to assess individual needs, design personalized learning experiences, and use technology effectively.
But it's also about
creating a culture of experimentation and collaboration.
Oh, interesting.
Where teachers feel comfortable trying new things, sharing what works, and learning from each other.
Now, we've talked about the potential benefits of personalized learning, the role of technology, the need for teacher training. But of course, it's not without its critics.
That's true.
Our sources bring up some serious concerns.
Like what?
Particularly about data privacy and equal access for all students.
Those are definitely valid concerns.
Yeah, as we gather more and more data about students, to personalize their learning, we have to be incredibly careful about how that data is collected, stored, and used.
Absolutely. Transparency and strong privacy protocols are essential.
And when it comes to equal access, how do we make sure that personalized learning doesn't just benefit students who already have the latest gadgets and internet access?
That's where policy and resources come in. We need to make a real effort to close the digital divide to ensure that all students have access to the technology and support they need to participate, regardless of their background or where they live.
It seems like we're just at the beginning of this journey towards personalized learning.
We're still in the early stages.
There's so much potential, but also so much work to do.
Absolutely.
To make sure it's implemented effectively and fairly.
You got it.
That's exactly why this conversation is so important.
I agree.
By really digging into these complexities, by acknowledging the challenges and celebrating the successes.
Absolutely.
We can move forward in a way that benefits all learners.
I like that.
Lots to think about.
Definitely.
We've laid some good groundwork here.
We have.
But there's so much more to explore.
I agree.
When we come back, let's dive deeper into how personalized learning intersects with specific learning needs.
That's good.
And we'll look at some real-world examples of it in action.
Great idea. I'm looking forward to it. You know, one of the most exciting things about personalized learning is how it can really embrace neurodiversity.
Oh, that's interesting.
We've always looked at education in a very narrow way.
Right.
But personalized learning gives us a chance to redefine what success even means for each individual student.
That reminds me of some of the policy drafts you sent over.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the ones focused on inclusive education. They seem to be moving away from just accommodating differences. And more towards actually celebrating those differences.
I like that.
But how do we make that happen in practice?
Right.
It feels like a huge leap for a lot of schools.
It is a big shift, but we are seeing some promising initiatives.
Like what?
Well, the concept of universal design for learning.
Okay, UDL.
Exactly. It's gaining traction as a framework for creating inclusive learning environments.
So instead of trying to adapt things after the fact.
Right. It's about proactively designing spaces, materials, and teaching methods that work for a wide range of learners from the very beginning.
Okay, but UDL is a pretty broad concept.
It is.
What are the practical takeaways for a teacher who's standing in front of a diverse classroom?
Well, UDL has 3 core principles.
Okay.
Multiple means of representation,
Okay.
multiple means of action and expression,
Mm-hmm.
and multiple means of engagement.
All right, so break that down for me.
Okay, so let's say you're teaching a history lesson about the American Revolution.
Right.
Instead of just relying on a textbook,
Uh-huh.
a UDL approach might involve using primary source documents,
Okay.
videos, even interactive simulations
Oh,
to
wow.
present the information in different ways.
So you're appealing to different learning styles right from the start.
Exactly.
But what about showing what they've learned?
Right.
Does everyone still take the same multiple choice test?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
UDL recognizes that students have different strengths
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to expressing what they know.
Right, like some might be great at writing essays.
Exactly. Others might be better at creating presentations
Okay.
or building models or even composing music.
Interesting.
The key is to offer choice and flexibility.
Okay.
So students can show their learning
Mm-hmm.
in ways that play to their strengths.
I like that. And what about that third principle?
Multiple means of engagement.
Yeah. Is that where student interest and motivation come in?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about making learning relevant and meaningful.
So in our American Revolution example,
Yeah.
the teacher might offer different research topics.
Right. Or let students choose how they present their findings,
Mm-hmm.
or even use some elements of gamification
Okay.
to boost engagement.
It seems like UDL requires a pretty big shift in thinking,
It does.
both for teachers and for the whole education system.
It's about recognizing that there isn't just one right way to learn.
Right.
Or to show what you've learned.
We have to be more flexible,
Absolutely.
more adaptable,
Yes.
and willing to think outside the box.
Exactly.
One of our sources, a case study from a school in rural Montana,
Mm-hmm.
talks about the impact of UDL on students with learning disabilities.
Okay.
They saw improvements in engagement,
Uh-huh.
academic performance,
That's great.
and even a decrease in behavior problems.
Wow. That's amazing.
But the study also mentions the challenge
yeah.
of getting everyone on board,
Right. Getting buy-in.
especially when resources are limited.
That's a common obstacle.
Yeah, I can see that.
Implementing UDL effectively requires commitment
Mhm.
from administrators, teachers, parents, the whole community.
It's not just about changing a few lessons.
No, it's about creating a culture of inclusivity
Right.
that values every learner.
And speaking of inclusivity,
Yeah.
our sources really delve into the role of personalized learning
Mm-hmm.
in supporting students with speech and language disorders.
That's a crucial area.
It's an area where technology seems to be opening up amazing new possibilities.
Absolutely. Things like speech-to-text software
Okay.
and visual communication aids
right.
are really empowering students who might have struggled before
Mm-hmm.
to express themselves and participate more fully in class.
And we're seeing exciting developments
Yeah.
in augmentative and alternative communication.
I see.
Right, which allows individuals with severe speech impairments to communicate
Mm-hmm.
using symbols, gestures, or electronic devices.
It's incredible.
So imagine a student who uses a communication board.
Okay.
How does personalized learning help make sure
Yeah.
that their voice is truly heard and valued in the classroom?
It's about creating an environment
Mhm.
where different forms of communication aren't just tolerated,
Okay,
but celebrated.
I like that.
This might involve using visual supports in lessons,
Okay.
providing opportunities for students to communicate,
Uh-huh.
using their preferred AAC methods,
Mm-hmm.
and fostering a classroom culture of respect,
Right.
where everyone feels safe and respected no matter how they communicate.
One of our sources, a blog post by a speech-language pathologist, talks about the importance of communication allies.
Oh, yeah, I love that idea.
Classmates who are trained to understand and interact with students using AAC.
It's a fantastic example
Mm-hmm.
of how personalized learning can extend beyond just one student
Okay.
and create a ripple effect of inclusivity throughout the whole classroom.
So by empowering all students
Yeah.
to be allies and advocates,
Exactly.
we create a learning environment where everyone feels valued and supported.
Absolutely.
You know, we often talk about personalized learning in terms of academics,
It's natural to focus on that.
but our sources really emphasize that it's also about
Mm-hmm.
fostering the whole child,
Right. The whole child.
their social emotional development,
Yes.
their sense of self-efficacy,
Mm-hmm.
their ability to navigate a complex world.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Personalized learning isn't just about test scores and grades.
Right.
It's about giving students the skills and the mindset they need to succeed in all aspects of their lives.
In life, yeah.
It's about fostering critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and resilience.
Qualities that will help them no matter what they do after graduation.
Exactly.
Our sources also touch on the importance of early intervention.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially for kids with learning disabilities.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the role of personalized learning in those early years?
Early intervention is key.
Okay.
Because it allows us to address learning challenges early on before they become more serious.
Right.
Personalized learning in early childhood might look like individualized therapy for a child with a speech delay.
Right.
Or tailored learning activities for a child with dyslexia, or creating a sensory-friendly environment for a child with autism.
Right.
The goal is to provide targeted support that helps each child reach their full potential.
One of our sources, a research study from a university in Finland, found that early intervention programs, the personalized learning approaches, led to really significant long-term gains.
Wow, that's great.
For children with learning disabilities.
So these kids
they were more likely to graduate high school, go to college, and find jobs.
That's remarkable.
It really is. It shows the power of early intervention.
It does.
And how important it is to tailor support to each child's needs.
Absolutely. When we invest in early childhood education and embrace personalized learning, we create benefits that can last a lifetime.
For both the individual and society as a whole.
Exactly.
So we've talked about personalized learning in the context of neurodiversity, speech and language disorders, and early childhood education.
It's clear that this approach has the potential to transform how we support and educate all learners.
But it's important to remember that personalized learning isn't a one-size-fits-all solution.
Absolutely no.
It takes careful planning, ongoing assessment, collaboration, and a willingness to adapt and evolve.
We have to be flexible.
As we learn more about what works best for each student.
I agree.
Now, our sources bring up a crucial aspect of personalized learning.
Oh, yeah.
That we haven't talked about yet.
Okay, what's that?
The role of data.
Ah, yes. Data is essential.
Yeah, it's essential for making informed decisions. About personalized learning.
But it's not just about collecting data. It's about using it ethically and effectively. To understand student needs, track progress, and make adjustments as needed.
One of our sources, a report from a data privacy advocacy group, raises concerns about the potential misuse of student data.
Okay, I see.
In a personalized learning environment.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
So how do we balance the benefits of data-driven decision-making with the need to protect student privacy?
That's a crucial question. We need clear guidelines and protocols for how data is collected, stored, and used. And transparency is key. Parents and students should know what data is being collected, how it's being used, and who has access to it.
We need to be really careful about protecting student data from unauthorized access or misuse.
I agree. It's a delicate balance. We need to leverage the power of data to make personalized learning effective. But we also need to make sure student privacy is protected.
Every step of the way.
Absolutely. Data can be a powerful tool for supporting student learning, but we have to use it responsibly and ethically.
You know, as we've been exploring this topic, I'm struck by how interconnected everything is.
It's true.
Personalized learning isn't just about individualized instruction or fancy technology.
It's bigger than that.
It's about creating a whole learning environment that values diversity, encourages collaboration, and empowers all learners to succeed.
I couldn't agree more.
It's about moving away from that one-size-fits-all model. And recognizing and celebrating each student's unique strengths and needs.
Absolutely. And that takes a collective effort.
It does.
From educators, policymakers, families, and communities.
We all have a role to play.
We do.
In creating a future where personalized learning is a reality for all learners.
I agree. It's a future worth fighting for.
So much to think about. When we come back, let's shift our focus to the practical side of implementing personalized learning.
Okay. Sounds good.
We'll explore specific strategies, tools, and resources that educators can use to create a truly personalized learning experience for every student. So we've talked a lot about the big ideas behind personalized learning.
The why and the how.
Exactly. But let's get down to brass tacks.
Okay.
What are some actual tools and strategies that teachers can use in their classrooms?
Well, one tool that's becoming really popular is the Learning Management System, or LMS.
LMS, okay.
It's basically a digital hub
Okay.
where teachers can create and deliver personalized content, track student progress, and even facilitate communication and collaboration.
Oh, wow.
And some LMS platforms even have adaptive learning algorithms built in.
So those algorithms, they can actually adjust the pace and difficulty based on how each student is doing.
Exactly.
So it's like having a personalized curriculum.
It is.
For each student. All in one platform.
Yeah, all in one place.
And within the LMS, teachers can use all sorts of strategies to personalize the learning experience.
Absolutely, like creating differentiated learning paths.
Okay, differentiated learning paths.
So providing different content, activities, and assessments based on the student's learning style, their interests, and their readiness levels.
One of our sources.
Yeah.
A Teacher's Guide to Personalized Learning. Suggests using learning contracts. As a way to give students more ownership over their learning.
I like that idea.
So how does that work?
Well, a learning contract is basically an agreement between the teacher and the student that outlines specific learning goals, the activities they'll do, timelines, and how they'll be assessed.
So you're involving the student in the process from the very beginning.
It empowers them to take ownership of their learning. And really tailor it to their needs and interests.
That's a great way to get students motivated.
It is.
Are there any other strategies teachers can use?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
To create a more personalized learning environment. Project-based learning is another great approach.
Okay. Project-based fun.
Instead of just lectures and textbooks, students work on real-world projects that let them apply their knowledge and skills in meaningful ways.
And this kind of learning is naturally differentiated.
It is.
Because students can choose projects that they're interested in and work at their own pace.
Exactly.
One of our sources, a case study from a high school in California, describes a project where students designed and built a solar-powered car.
That's awesome. What a cool way to learn about science, technology, engineering, and math.
It's a great example. And what's really cool about project-based learning
is that it connects different subject areas in a way that traditional teaching often doesn't.
Right. Students can see how what they're learning actually applies to the real world.
Exactly.
It seems like personalized learning also requires a shift.
It does.
In how we assess students.
Absolutely.
So how do we move away from standardized tests and embrace more personalized approaches to assessment?
Well, instead of relying only on summative assessment.
Okay, like big end-of-unit tests.
Exactly. Personalized learning focuses on formative assessment.
Okay, formative assessment.
Which is ongoing feedback that helps students understand their strengths and areas for growth.
So what would that look like in the classroom?
Well, teachers might use things like exit tickets, student self-assessments, peer feedback, or even portfolio assessment that shows student work over time.
One of our sources, a research paper on assessment, talks about using technology to create more dynamic and personalized feedback systems.
Oh, that's interesting.
So things like intelligent tutoring systems.
Right. Those systems can provide real-time feedback, adapt to student responses, and even suggest personalized learning resources.
Based on what each student needs. It sounds like technology can really support personalized learning.
It can.
Not just in terms of delivering content, but also in providing feedback and guidance.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember that technology is just a tool. It's not a replacement for good teaching.
Right. Teachers are still essential.
Absolutely.
For mentoring, building relationships, and creating a supportive and engaging learning environment.
Couldn't agree more.
And speaking of the human element, our sources talk a lot about the importance of strong teacher-student relationships.
But crucial.
In a personalized learning environment.
Absolutely. Personalized learning is not just about algorithms and data. It's about human connection.
Right. When teachers really get to know their students, understand their strengths and challenges, and create that safe and supportive environment, students are more likely to thrive.
It makes a huge difference.
One of our sources, a blog post by a veteran teacher, talks about the power of intentional listening.
Intentional listening. I like that.
Really paying attention to what students are saying, both verbally and non-verbally.
Right, picking up on those cues.
And using that information
Yeah.
to inform personalized learning decisions.
That's a great example of how personalized learning goes beyond just academics.
It's about seeing each student as an individual.
Absolutely.
Valuing their unique perspectives and creating a learning experience that honors their needs and aspirations.
I love that.
You know, throughout this deep dive,
Yeah.
I've been really impressed by the potential of personalized learning.
It's powerful stuff.
It's not just about tweaking a few teaching methods or adopting some new technologies.
It's a much bigger shift.
It's about fundamentally changing how we think about education.
I agree. It challenges us to move beyond that one-size-fits-all model.
Yeah.
And really embrace the individuality of every learner.
It asks us to rethink our roles as educators, to be more flexible and adaptable, and to create learning environments that are truly inclusive and empowering.
And that takes a collective effort.
It does.
From educators, policymakers, families, and communities.
But the rewards are worth it.
They are.
When we embrace personalized learning, we create a future where every student has a chance to succeed.
A future where everyone can reach their full potential.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Into personalized learning paths.
It's been a great conversation.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights.
I hope so.
And are inspired to keep exploring this exciting and evolving field.
It's definitely an exciting time in education.
Until next time.